I just received your most pressing Web3 marketing questions, many of whom were very good questions. And in today's video, I'm going to be diving into each and answering them for you. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Leon Aboud. I'm the founder and CEO of Unfungible.xyz, a Web3 growth marketing agency. We've had the opportunities to support hundreds of the top brands in the space with their marketing and community building initiatives. The very first question that I have for us here is by I Know Good Things, who asked, how do you combat heavy saturation in Web3 with a small consumer base that prioritizes heavy and often unrealistic incentivized monetization over groundbreaking products and cool experiences? Beautiful question. And for your context, this was I Know Good Things is the community manager at KPR Verse, who is an NFT project launched in late 2022. And KPR did a very good job at positioning themselves as an experiential NFT project. So the fact that I Know Good Things is asking that question shows that this is a pressing concern, not only for upcoming projects, but also for already launched and established projects. And the way I'm going to break down this question is in two parts. The first part is how do you combat heavy saturation in Web3? And the second one is how do you deal with a consumer base that often prioritizes heavy and unrealistic incentivized monetization over innovation? So in regards to the heavy saturation in Web3, I like to base my marketing frameworks and my marketing strategies based on the reality on the ground. A big way that I like to formulate the marketing frameworks and strategies that I share with all of you here is by looking at what worked as a projection of what will work in the future. Present and past performance is the best indicator of future performance. And in terms of combating heavy saturation, the reality about Web3 is that what we're constantly seeing are new pockets of niches being opened up. For example, this one right here, we can call this NFTs on ETH. This one right here, we can call NFTs on Sol. This can be base AI agents and so forth. And the reality of the situation is once these new bubbles open up, they quickly end up getting filled by key players within the marketplace. And once each individual bubble reaches saturation, it often becomes incredibly hard to compete for that attention and to regain the first place. Because within each bubble, typically the first couple weeks, the first couple months get filled with players. And these players will compete within themselves. The laws of natural selection will occur. The best will survive. Everyone else will get filtered out of the marketplace. And the top players, the one who do end up surviving, will emerge as the dominant forces within that bubble. So for example, if you were to tell me that you're trying to launch the next blue chip NFT project on Ethereum, wow, what a task. Because now you're competing against all these very established projects. Based on past performance and current observations of what is working, the best way to combat heavy saturation within an industry is by timing your launch around these big new pockets that are emerging. And the truth about Web3 is we're constantly having new pockets emerge with sub-pockets being opened up. For example, under NFTs on ETH, we have the top IP brands, then we have the top anime brands, and then we have the top collectible brands, collectibles. And then we have the same phenomenon being applied on Solana. And we're seeing new bubbles opening up. For example, a good friend of mine, someone I've known for the entire market since Unfungible was started in 2022, was Final Bosu, Kevin, the founder of Final Bosu. And the guy has been just working his way through the whole bear market. We would have calls every once in a while, and he would tell me, Leon, like, the market is looking absolutely crazy. I don't know if NFTs are ever going to come back. And then what happened? He continued working on his brand assets, nurturing his community, building out his founder funnel until a new pocket opened up, Abstract. And today, Kevin is on track and Final Bosu are on track to being the #1 project on Abstract. They have the support of the Abstract team, of Lucanet, and that of a lot of other parties that are rooting for their success. This right here is a great example how a brand, Final Bosu, who were wanting to go for the very saturated Ethereum space, were able to break out from that saturation by timing their launch around these new bubbles that are emerging. And here's my guarantee to you, whatever you're trying to build, with enough patience, you're going to find the right timing for you to have your overnight success moment. Obviously, if you're trying to enter a space because you have no other option, you're going to end up burning yourself because the market does not reward the 10th mover or the 100th mover. They reward first movers advantage who are ready and are able to strike when the opportunity comes. Now, the next part of this question is, how do you then build a community base that supports innovation versus prioritizes heavy and unrealistic monetization and incentivization? The reality of Web3, and this was actually something I'm going to bring up as well in one of the next questions, is Web3 is financialized by nature. The moment you're launching a Web3 product, whether it's a token, whether it's an NFT, you're going to have a publicly traded stock ticker on the market that is there live 24/7, where people are going to trade your brand value. So to say that in Web3, you can nurture an entire community around a tradable asset that is just here for the cool experiences would be, frankly, a lie, because that isn't the case. The only way to overcome this is by deploying established Web2 business models into Web3 by having pay to play type of subscription model where people have to pay to access your product. It's soul-bound NFT, so you get it, you pay for it once, it's not tradable. However, I do know that most of you here watching this are not going this direction. Instead, you're trying to launch a token and you're trying to launch an NFT. So the financialization cannot be avoided. However, this is where curating the right community comes in. Curating a community of people who obviously are going to be incentivized by the upside, but also have a genuine care of what is it you're building. Just think of sneaker collectors. The reason why there's a secondary sneaker market for collectibles is, number one, because these are valuable and they're scarce, aka they're valuable. They hold a certain monetary value that people seek. Number two, sneaker collectors are oftentimes passionate about this. They understand the trade. They understand what they're buying into. They like the niche. They know how to value something. So the goal is, how do you not only seek people seeking financialization, which is everyone in Web3, while also finding the right community member that resonates into the big picture and resonates into what is it you're trying to build. I have a great example for you. So talking about first movers and saturated ecosystems, I was recently having a podcast conversation with Nick, the co-founder of Claynosaurs, arguably number one or number two Solana NFT project, depending on the time frame between it and Mad Lads. One of the questions I asked him is, how was he able to build a community that isn't just extractive by nature, but instead supports what the brand is building? And in a nutshell, what he told me was a big part of it was nurturing and curating your community, not only pre-launch, but especially post-launch. Post-launch is when your community is going to have their eyes on you, trying to identify if this is something they want to stick with long-term or not. And if people do not see a future with your project, they do not see the future of your project looking bright, therefore the future of their bag is not looking bright, they're just going to sell. They're going to exit your ecosystem. Versus when you have the ability to come out as a charismatic leader with a strong vision, a clear written path as to how that vision is going to be brought to life, with that vision being reinforced by action. Again, we talk about this, the VET framework. Communicating and living the VET, vision, execution, and team, into reality is how you're going to have the ability to all of a sudden curate a community of people who will want to stick around for the ride and not just be like, I can just here's an easy $20. That will never be sustainable. The second question that we have is from Zarek. And his question is, for me, it would be interesting to know how Web3 projects can best engage communities beyond just offering rewards. And beautiful question. Zarek is an ambassador at Ancient 8 Web3 gaming project. And his question is very similar to that of the previous. It just has a little bit of a different nuance and a different angle. And the reality of things is, the keyword here is beyond just offering rewards. And I'm going to label rewards as the keywords because rewards comes down to many things. So how can you reward? Fundamentally, as humans, there are 4 things that we seek. So the 4 drivers, there might be more, but in the context of Web3 marketing, these are the 4 big ones that we can talk about. The first one is fun. The second one is meaning. People are searching for meaning as part of their existential journey, which is being a human. Number 4, people are seeking status. And number 4 is people are seeking money. Now, the problem is most teams often end up over leveraging on the very fourth pillar. The only thing they can ever offer people is monetary gain, monetary reward. And no matter that you end up nurturing a community of people that are monetary seeking, no wonder that the only type of reward that can be given to the community is that of money. Cash prizes, cash giveaways, prize go up, pump. All these, the culture of price go up, let's all make money, is not a sustainable one, because the music will eventually stop, price action will correct, the bear market will happen, whether it's in the near future or in the long-term future. It is a guarantee of life. So the question really is, in terms of how do we engage a community beyond just offering rewards, it's by being able to tap into these other pillars right here. Because the money bit will always be here, as we've seen. Web3, financialized, people are always here for the money. But then how do we unlock one of these other three elements as part of our Web3 marketing and community building initiatives? And I'll give you a couple examples. For example, with Wolves DAO. So Wolves DAO is an interesting case study. And full transparency, disclosure, I'm an early investor on their token round. With Wolves DAO, they first started off as an alpha group for Web3 gaming, thought leaders, influencers, and KOLs. So it started off as an alpha group for people to make money. Obviously, that's what people are here for in Web3. Then, as they grew in recognition, as they started onboarding bigger and bigger creators, all of a sudden, being part of Wolves DAO started to become a status play. If you're part of Wolves DAO, you're all of a sudden part of the inner circle of the most powerful Web3 gaming community. There's only, I think, 100 spots in there. It's closed. If you're not adding value to the community, you get kicked out. So Wolves DAO in themselves started off as a money play, but then moved on to become a status play. And by doing that, they were all of a sudden, a couple of years after, launch a token, and obviously have the team was able to have a payday for their hard work over the years, curating a very exclusive but free community. So this right here is a token example. If we are to look at Pudgy Penguins, at the beginning, outside of people seeing that it's a money play because potentially had upside, at first I would say Pudgy had a lot of meaning, because from the very beginning, Pudgy's community was very strong. It was almost a home for a lot of people during the bear market. So a lot of people wanted to join Pudgy Penguin just to find themselves around other like-minded people in this space. So it started off as a meaning play, but then as the project grew in recognition, in size, in impact, it now has become a status play. You flex your Pudgy Penguin because it's a Pudgy Penguin. It's the most established NFT project outside of Bored Ape and Yuga Labs' Punks, for example. Pure money and status play. Nothing else, nothing more. So going back to Zurich's question, how do you engage a community beyond just offering rewards? It's by being able to architect your project in a way that it has more to offer than just money. And this is where, as part of your experience, you're going to have to find ways to identify which of these can you offer people. Can you offer status through your project, your community? Can you offer meaning? Or can you offer fun? A lot of Web3 gaming is based on fun. And the modern wisdom, which is most Web3 gamers are not seeking fun, they're seeking money. It's absolutely true. But if people can make money by having fun, this is the perfect intersection of a Web3 gaming project launching to a Web3 audience. Now, whether the question is that the right path or not, it's not for today's conversation, but that is the play right here. The third question that we have is from Harry Jackson, who asked, if a client came to you asking, how do I keep community attention on my project instead of it wandering to other projects? What would be your high-level thought process advice you would give to these founders? What's interesting is that most founders think that, let's say this right here is the attention of someone in Web3. Most founders think that when someone finds their project, all of a sudden it becomes their forever attention home, where it becomes the only thing people just focus on, and it's the only thing as part of their attention in Web3. But the reality of things is, if you guys have seen a map of a cat that moves throughout the day, this is a very good representation of how the attention of someone in Web3 looks like. So it starts here in the morning, then goes here, then goes to the third point, then goes here, and then comes back to this point, and then moves here, and then goes back to this point. So it's like attention is like a cat moving throughout the day. Its focal point is on these specific spots while always seeking other things in the surrounding that is interesting. Solution behind Harry's question comes down to retention. How do we have the attention or the cat go back to the same spot multiple times per day or throughout the week to retain that thing's attention? And this is where I talk a lot about the ACR framework, which is the exact framework that you can follow to attract attention and retain it. And this right here are the three things that every project needs as part of the marketing. So they need to have an ability to attract. The second one, they need to have an ability to convert. And thirdly, they need to have an ability to retain. And as part of this question is, how do we unlock the retention process? The first part about retention is having something worthy. In Web3, perception is reality, and people are going to make their judgment of your project based on first impressions. So the first step is about having something worthy of people's attention. Are other people talking about them? Are other people in their network talking about your project? Is there something spectacularly unique about your project? Is a project in high demand? Social proof that creates people wanting to stick around to see what is happening. You need to have something worthy. And as you guys know, I always have something to refer to you guys. A great resource for you is the book right here, Influence, which talks about all the things. So Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's a book about what makes people do things. And all the parameters of influence are the exact same things that make people care. When people care, they come back. So the first thing is having something people deem worthy. The second one is by having a good targeting mechanism. And this one works hand in hand with attract. So as part of the attraction process means you need a good brand awareness strategy. The thing about brand awareness is that the moment people are aware about your project, they know who you are, they've seen you, they recognize your logo, then awareness now becomes retargeting. Because you don't stop on the first time people have seen your project. Instead, you want to keep drilling down the idea that you exist, what you're building, keep communicating with them. Again, the law of 7, people need to be exposed to your project for 7 hours in total. So a big way is retargeting mechanism. We need to find a way to bring our projects' content in front of their attention through high quality content. We continue doing influencer marketing. When people see you nurture your community via Discord or Telegram. Perhaps I've seen some people do this. They are able to collect emails of these people. So all of a sudden you're landing in people's inbox. Big time under tap strategy, honestly. And when people start seeing you again on their timeline, they remember like, oh, there was that one spot that I went to. It had something interesting. Let me go back there. And the third thing that I'm going to add here when it comes to the retention process, and this right here is oftentimes underlooked, is having a clear community ascension path. This right here was pioneered by Airbnb when they were trying to get more hosts to host their homes on Airbnb. They realized that asking a homeowner to all of a sudden create an account and host their first guest at their property was too big of a jump. So what they did is that they broke down the community ascension curve, the community ascension process or journey. They broke it down into micro steps. At first, they showed people an article. Secondly, they invited people to create an account on Airbnb. Thirdly, they invited people to book a stay at someone else's home. And then finally, was someone warm enough to open up their own home, being like, oh, this was a great experience. Actually, let me do the same in my property. This right here was the community ascension journey of Airbnb. And a big part of Web3 marketing is really built on community attraction and retention. There are not a lot of people in Web3. It's really a question of how fast can you attract people and how long can you retain them. This is Web3 marketing in a nutshell. And the journey is by firstly having a clear community ascension path that people have the ability to explore if they want to. Crypto exchanges do this very well. For example, when you open an account with them, at first it's about putting your email, KYC, and then you have your account. And then what they do is they incentivize you to deposit, make your first deposit. If you deposit $10, we'll credit you $10. And then it's like, if you make your first $50 trade, we'll compensate you $10. And then if you make your first $200, so they're literally walking people through the journey with clear steps on how they can be incentivized to go through the community ascension path. So for you, what does your community ascension path look like? If the only destination that you have is join Discord and verify, all of a sudden you're limiting people's journey to explore further, because you're always going to have 20% of people who will explore 80% of your ecosystem. So what are the different steps that make up your ecosystem? Is it join Discord, verify your profile, and then say hello? They've realized this in community studies, is that when the hardest message to send is always the introductory message. If you make it easy for people and welcoming for people to send their first message, all of a sudden you're making their second message a lot easier to send. Do you then want people to register to your email newsletter for updates? Some people will want you, not everyone, but some people will. All of a sudden you're able to retarget people with a weekly email newsletter. Do you have a product that is either live or in a waitlist? If you're building a project with the goal of building a product, you should start building your customer base before even launching the product. And that is by building a waitlist for the project, for the product, I mean. What is the next step as part of your community ascension curve? And if you guys want to dive deeper in this, I would there's a lot of research about this on the internet. Again, Airbnb comes up as a regular example, but do check it out. So next, right here, we have Adi's question, which is a nice change of energy. And this is, how do you research and create content with speed? I have tried hiring multiple ghostwriters and researchers, but nobody can write my personal thoughts like I do. And obviously, no one can write your personal thoughts because no one is you. And there's something that I very often talk about, which is last year in early 2024, I embarked on a journey to enrich my ability to communicate, mainly through spoken words, but also through written words. And I remember buying into this program by this very famous YouTuber who talks about becoming more eloquent. And one of the things he talked about to enrich your lexicon, your vocabulary, a big reflection of your lexicon is if your information diet, where you're consuming on the day-to-day, the YouTube videos you're listening to, the music you're listening to, the Netflix series you're watching, if your input of information is made up of vague, vulgar words, this is how you're going to start sounding. You're going to start talking in vague words. You're going to start talking in vulgar words. Now, if you take it the other way, if your lexicon all of a sudden becomes rich in precise words and words that are accurate, that have depth and not width in their meanings, all of a sudden, these are going to be the words that you're going to start using within your vocabulary. That's why I'm such a big proponent. I'm going to just here, I had a book on my table. I always have a book on my table. Whenever I'm in between meetings, I'm reading, I'm listening to podcasts at the gym. Since then, I've been extra thoughtful on my information diet. What I've realized is this very phenomenon does not only apply to your lexicon, aka the words that you use, but it applies to the thoughts that you have. If your information diet is made up of smart, original, thought-provoking content, this is exactly the type of output that you're going to start creating in the world. So the way I can create original content that is at speed is I never sit down and I'm like, all right, let's come up with a fresh tweet. No, instead, I'm capturing the thoughts that I'm having throughout the day to day. Whether it's someone said something really interesting during a team meeting that I had a thought on or a response to, or it's a concern that a client gave me about the state of the market that I had a thought about, or whether it's something that I read in a book and there was one sentence that stood out, which I interpreted to be very relevant to the context of what I talk about, which is Web3 marketing and brand building in Web3. All of a sudden, these things you're going to be able to start having original thoughts that can be turned into audio, video, or written content without you needing to hire someone to think for you. No one can think for you. The best way to use copywriters or ghostwriters is exactly like Gary Vaynerchuk. did to write his books. So in one of his videos, he said how he's a horrible writer, but he considers himself to be a very good speaker. So he had the luxury to hire a copywriter for a full week. And during that full week, he would just speak the book out. And then a good copywriter was able to take Gary Vee's own words and distill them down into a book that is consumable by the many. So this right here is my recommendation to creating original and speedy content without burning your money on ghostwriters that won't work for you. And the final question that we have is by Mr. David Lovejoy. Whether that's your last name or not, if it is, freaking cool last name, man. But the question is, how can Web3 projects build trust with a skeptical audience? The reality of things are Web3 as an industry has been burnt more often than not. We were a very trusting industry back in 21, 22, became very skeptical 24, 25. And for good reasons. The market became more mature. People started to realize that everything is an empty promise unless proven otherwise. So guilty unless proven innocent is the motto of our industry. And there's obviously building trust is a science in and of itself. But I've realized that having a face to the brand that people resonate with is the best way to build trust with a skeptical audience. If you are to notice, the top projects that are launching today are ones by founders who have built their brand throughout the bear or had a brand from the previous bull market. So these were not people that came out of nowhere and were like, yo, what up? I have a project. The death of new founders, it's incredibly difficult to jump into this new industry fresh and launch something. Instead, the biggest burden of trust is not on the project, but it's on the founder. Because at the end of the day, it is the founder that will make the project. The same project, Pudgy Penguin, under one founder, the project was left to die. With another founder or leader, Luca Netz, the project was made to thrive. And that is where I'm a very big proponent on the founder funnel, and especially the deployment of the VET framework with the founder funnel. So the founder funnel made a lot of content about the founder funnel, but it's pretty much using the founder profile as the primary marketing vehicle for your brand. By the way, stay tuned until the end of this video. I'll attach the video that you need to learn about the founder funnel. And then you combine that with the VET framework, which is what is the type of content that you need to be making to come off as something that will spark people's curiosity in Web3. So as part of your content strategy, you always need to be painting the vision of where you're going. You need to be painting strong execution on how you plan on bringing that vision to life. And finally, the team, you need to heavily emphasize on who is the team behind this project and why you should trust us. So every content piece has to hit on one or three of the VET framework. When you combine the founder funnel with the VET, which is fundamentally just how the hell do you communicate with people in a way that makes you look good? When you combine these two, all of a sudden, you have a mechanism that helps build trust and allows people to see you for who you are. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Leon Aboud. If you want to learn more about how not using the founder funnel is killing your Web3 brand, make sure you watch this video right here.